My name is Mercury Winters, and in some apartment complex far from Collinwood, there is a character living rent-free in my head. There is plenty to love about Dark Shadows as a franchise, right? And it is a franchise that I just genuinely adore. Vampires, monsters, gothic melodrama, like the very bones of this entire story just check off all of the things on my Things Mercy Likes list. You know, over the years, I've worked my way through all of the original series, all of the revival, all of the movies, including the newest, which controversial take. I liked it. I haven't gotten to the novels yet by our original Angelique, aka Laura Parker, but they do take up a solid chunk of my to-be-read list. But I'm not here for Barnabas or for Quentin, at least not directly. And I'm not even here for Maggie or Victoria, even though my name is partially inspired by Miss Victoria Winters. I also do typically show up for classy mama bear Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, but she's not who I came all this way for. I'm here, rain or shine, for the ride or die best friend / mad scientist of the ages, Doctor Julia Hoffman. We say her name with respect in this house. And like, here's the thing, I can ramble about this character and all of the actors who played her, right? There's just so much I want to say about this single character that I can't even broach the subject of Dark Shadows with any of my friends in real life anymore. I can just see their eyes roll back in their head. And you know what? Like, a bunch of them have probably never even heard Quentin's name come from my mouth, but they definitely know Grayson Hall's name. And if you don't yet, by the end of the video, I really hope you do. Quick note, I don't want this video to be like 4 hours long. That is a stress nightmare for my baby editing skills and just not something I am ready to broach yet. So because of that, I will be kind of skimming the surface of things a little bit. There are just so many great storylines. There are a ton of characters and a ton of drama, especially over the original 1,200 episodes alone. I can't cover all of that. So I'm going to stay in my lane and focus on the lady of the hour, and I'm just going to kind of clean up the narratives a little bit for that. However, if I leave out your favorite juicy detail or gloss over something that you're passionate about, like drop it in the comments so we can all enjoy. A brief biography of the baddest in Collinsport. We first meet Dr. Julia Hoffman in 1967, where she's working in psychiatry and rare blood disorders at Wincliffe Sanitarium. Her old med school colleague, Dr. Woodard, has reached out for help with one of his patients. See, he was treating lovely young Maggie Evans for a bizarre acute blood deficiency that just like popped up out of nowhere. But then during treatment, Maggie was kidnapped and held captive somewhere. And now she's back, but she's a completely broken person. And she is in direct risk of being found by the monster that she escaped. The culprit is not yet caught. So they decide that they're all going to pretend that Maggie is dead, while Julia Hoffman treats her secretly, and they can get to the heart of this strange phenomenon of weird anemic disorders happening around town. Woodard isn't crazy about this whole like faking a death and doing detective work idea, because as incredibly well respected as Dr. Julia Hoffman is, Julia herself states that her methods are more concerned with finding the truth than with the direct human needs of the patient. Julia Hoffman is a woman of varied interests and skills. And over the course of treating Maggie, she discovers that Maggie wasn't just kidnapped by anyone. She was kidnapped and held in the basement by someone in Collinwood, someone who seems very much to possibly be a vampire. And let's be real, the Collins family are prime suspects for vampirism in this town. Like, that would barely scratch the surface of their various generational scandals, especially with weird cousin Barnabas who just showed up in town. So back to the detective work. Julia hypnotizes Maggie to keep her from spilling the beans to anybody else. Julia Hoffman has got a mystery to solve. She's going to catch herself a vampire, she's going to study him, and she's going to use the findings for science. But she's also got to be covert about it, so she starts leaning on her other skills. Convincingly, she passes herself off as a historian who wants to write about the history of Collinwood. And that gets her in the door, so now she's living at Collinwood. Easy as that. With some sleuthing, Julia does indeed confirm that not only is Barnabas Collins a vampire, but also that he abducted Maggie with the intention of brainwashing her into becoming his dead ex-girlfriend Josette. And now that Maggie has slipped free, he's just doing it all again, but much more subtly with Victoria Winters. And there's opportunity in taking care of all of this too, right? Not only do you get the credit for saving these girls, but this guy's the scientific discovery of a century, and Julia's gonna get all of the credit for it. So Julia sets a trap. She's ready to strike a deal. And they have this conversation in one of the most sexually charged scenes of the entire early series. It did weird things to me as a teenager. It's crazy. She gets Barnabas to set up a deal. She will help him find a cure for his vampirism so that he can be with Victoria as a loving human husband. And they even get her a lab set up in one of the basement rooms. But remember, Julia's smart. She realizes that Barnabas has every reason to want to kill her. So she's still hanging Maggie over his head as collateral. He doesn't know where she is, and she's the one keeping Maggie. If Julia's not around to hypnotically suppress the girl's memories, then Maggie will name Barnabas as her attacker and he'll be over the course of this storyline, though, something peculiar starts happening. Soap opera time! Well, studying and working with Barnabas, and despite her better judgment, Julia can't help but find herself invested in this guy. Like, first, it's just the scientific curiosity. Yes, but then over time, a friendship starts to develop, and then here comes genuine affection. And that's when Julia finds herself in a really shitty situation. She's in love with Barnabas Collins. She got hit by the Barnabas. Side note, I just need you to know that some true internet historian shit went down trying to find that gif. So many old Tumblr blogs. And what we see in this dynamic is now a total change. This woman who came in ready to kick down doors and slay vampires and write research papers actually kind of just wants to help him now. She just cares about him and is invested in his emotional plight and wants to help him get better. He wants to love and to be loved. His heart yearns for a human life that was taken for him centuries ago by a spurned lover. The least she can do while helping him regain his humanity is also keep an eye on him and make sure he doesn't get himself into any more trouble. And that's the role that Julia happily settles into within the Collins family. Everyone just kind of forgets about that book that she's writing at some point, and she just joins this dysfunctional family as their live-in psychiatrist and BFF. And thank God she does, because over the next several hundred episodes, Doctor Julia Hoffman is doing the overtime to keep everybody alive. She's trying to keep the universe undestroyed, and she's coddling Barnabas after every broken heart. They help another mad scientist make Frankenstein's monster, and they travel between dimensions and timelines with werewolves and witches. And they just fill our TV screens with wonderful soapy goodness. And you know what's crazy? Is Julia actually loves this idiot, legitimately. That's why she doesn't push herself on him, because she loves him. She wants him to be happy, healthy, and safe. So as a much more faithful ride or die than I could ever be, Julia goes on endless chaotic adventures, protecting Barnabas and the rest of the Collins family from themselves. FMK, aka Marry, Kill. Dark Shadows has a very specific character triangle that I really adore. Because there's another woman in this crazy world who is just head over heels, helplessly in love with Barnabas, even though she knows better. But he's just not here for her. She's no longer the pretty young thing of the week. She's Barnabas, and therefore the show's primary antagonist, Angelique. It's such a great dichotomy between them, right? Julia accepts with grace that she and Barnabas are just in different places, right? She supports him living his best life, and it just keeps him from doing anything stupid like kidnapping girls and taking them to Collinwood. Angelique is not that chill. Angelique got her heart fucking trampled by Playboy Barnabas centuries ago, and that shit has been hanging on to her forever. And Angelique, like Julia, is another incredibly intelligent, beautiful woman with a very limited moral compass. Angelique has no interest in curing his vampirism. She is literally the one who cursed him with it. She's the one chasing his ass down across centuries and timelines and dimensions to make Barnabas pay, suffer, and maybe even love her again. No one in this show is known for their sound decision making. So now I want to play a modified game of Marry, Kill with myself, not for the purpose of my answer, That simple. Marry Julia, Angie, kill Barnabas. But what I think is funny is how the three major versions of Dark Shadows, 1966, 1991, and 2012, across those three, the dynamics are totally different. So like first, 1966 is the married configuration, obviously. Everybody is obsessed with everybody else. No one is looking for casual hookups in this whole era situation. Everyone is out there like going through cosmic curses for their soulmates and just creating great weeks of drama and turmoil in the wake. 1991 is the kill configuration. This is pure Dracula and Van Helsing shit. We are playing cat and mouse, domination and victory just through and through. 2012. These guys are all horny as shit. Despite his supposed love for Vicky / Josette, Barnabas is also super busy throughout the entirety of the film, dealing with every woman in Collinsport throwing herself at him. And I mean, that's such an opportunity that he never has a chance to get too invested in Angie or too invested in Julia, but we do get some really wild sex scenes and HIPAA violations.
Was he just doing up his laces, or, you know?
The psycho-psychiatrist trope. All right, so like, I really hate the name of this trope, but holy shit, I love this trope, or at least like the characters of it. I will admit I do have a little bit of a concern that maybe it just further adds to fear that blocks people who really need help from getting help, but I am by far not the most qualified person on the internet to talk about that, right? Like, you know what I am qualified to talk about? How much I like Hannibal Lecter and Harley Quinn. From tvtropes.org. Psychopsychologists are therapists who really should not be a therapist. At best, they will display a criminally negligent lack of empathy with the patient and either grow callously frustrated with dealing with other people's problems or give them horrible and often self-destructive advice. At worst, they will have sinister ulterior motives and actively abuse the relationship, possibly making their hapless victim an unwitting pawn in some evil schemes, or perhaps deliberately sabotaging their fragile mental state out of sheer spite or sadism. Dr. Julia Hoffman definitely fits the trope. At least sometimes. Like, sometimes she does legit have her doctor act together. But I have also always been fascinated by this type of character. As a neurospicy person myself, the science of the mind has always been like so cool and fascinating to me. And people who are knowledgeable and comfortable in their understanding of the human psyche are kind of like wizards to me. And right now I am planting a flag that I will support mental health professionals to the end of the earth. They have saved my life time and again. The only reason I'm a happy, functioning person right now is because of the hard work of people fighting against the stigmatization. PSA, everyone should go to therapy. It's good hygiene. Now, with that said, what contrarian doesn't like to see someone use their superpowers for evil from time to time, at least in fiction? Or in Julia's case, it's not so much evil as it's just her own needs. Like, she will take care of patients. She is highly renowned. But she's also not above hypnosis and blackmail and corpse mutilation or blowjobs. If she has the ability to help herself or someone she cares about, she's gonna do it unbound of anyone's ethics. And then, like, half the time, it circles back around and her unethical behavior serves the common good anyway. That is a level of bad bitchery I aspire to. Oh, that's that sound. Oh no! It's the Barnabas! Run for your life! See, Barnabas is a special character in general, in that he's a little ball of chaos who obliviously ruins lives in his quest for that which he thinks he's entitled to. And 2012, Barnabas picks up that mantle beautifully, to the detriment of the rest of the film. All right, hear me out, because I do actually really like this movie. All right, hear me out, because I do actually really like this movie. It's campy, it's fun, it's made by a bunch of people who obviously hold a lot of affection in their hearts for the source material. But it has one major weakness that I think might be the reason that it wasn't as well received by its bigger audience. Barnabas is the point of view character. Barnabas, from his introduction, was at once the star of the show, yes, but he was not our point of view character. Vicky was. Victoria Winters was the de facto protagonist, and it's her narration that sets up the framing devices of most of the episodes of the original series. Because we frame the story from her point of view, the audience gets a much fuller picture of Barnabas as a person. Like, yes, he thinks he's romantic. He thinks he's a family man. He thinks he's got a head for business and that it's up to him to save the family name. Check, check, check. All of this tracks between the movie and the original sources. However, what the movie doesn't show us is how utterly delusional Barnabas actually is. By following him directly and his perspective, we as the audience have no choice but to take what he says at face value, which can be a lot of fun in some places, but it's absolutely devastating to other characters in the process. Like, all right, Victoria is a lonely girl who is desperate to feel that she belongs and that she is wanted. And this weird old guy is awkward as shit, but because he's kind of her boss and also adorable, she allows his advances. But then, by the end of the movie, because Barnabas never actually bothered to invest himself in Victoria, in her wants, her needs, her real name, then when she's like, nah, I'm Josette, he's like, oh, cool, and he never thinks about it again. Because why would he? He had no interest in Victoria. He was just hung up on this chick who looked like his dead ex-girlfriend, Josette. And now, as far as he's concerned, she is Josette. Like, yes, Barnabas's dad taught him about the value in family. But we also see in the original that Daddy Collins is a total asshole. And Barnabas is just bringing along his 17th century familial ideal bullshit. He walks into his family homes, looks at an underage girl who obviously lives here, and calls her a sex worker as an insult. Barnabas doesn't know shit about canning or factories. He's been in a box for 200 years. What he does know is where the money is hidden. Elizabeth is the one who kept the family business running all these years with nothing. The only thing that Barnabas brought to the table was capital. Doctor Julia Hoffman. Everything about her in 2012 is also present in the original. Like her drinking problems, her hyperfixations, a hazy understanding of ethics, and an attraction to Barnabas. But because Barnabas's view of the world, especially women, is so myopic, these are the only things that he can see in Julia, I guess. So without Barnabas seeing her heart, her smarts, her drive, her mad scientist super abilities, her ability to pull Barnabas's ass out of whatever hot water he leaps into blindly, the audience doesn't see that either. Time for a tangent within a tangent. When this movie came out, I was like 20 or 21, and also the only person I knew in real life who had any interest in the show. I had no one IRL to share my movie hype with. I had friends online on Tumblr who joked about the Barnabas and thought up Dark Shadows cocktails. The only one I remember is the Barnabas Collins, which was grenadine and Everclear, because you will wake up in a basement and not remember who you are. Then, this older woman, Dana, started working at the retail shop that I was at the time. Dana was a real MVP, man. She also happened to know and like the 1966 Dark Shadows. And she was also hyped for the film. So it was super fun. We went together on opening night, had a blast. Dana, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well. And Dana also, by virtue of just being there next to me, kept me from absolutely melting down in disappointment part of the way through the movie. See, I was too self-conscious to get emotional with her there, but oh man, the disrespect of Julia's death and corpse disposal in 2012.
Don't worry, Mr. B. Never liked to bitch anyway.
You know what, Willie? I never liked you that much anyways, and after that comment, you can just go choke on a pumpkin. And I think it's evident that there is really no love to lose between me and Barnabas. Barnabas has the self-awareness of a teaspoon, have no idea how badass and cool Dr. Julia Hoffman actually is. At least she was still well acted. Oh my God, the acting. Okay, so this first comment is shallow, but there's a commonality in all three of these actresses that I really love. That like somewhere in the mix, along with everything else we already talked about with Julia, canonically, apparently, Julia Hoffman has striking eyes that pierce into your soul and cheekbones that could cut a man open. So in 1966, Grayson Hall came onto a show that was supposed to be a short story. Her character was supposed to play a Van Helsing type character for a vampire who had been introduced on the show. He would hunt down pretty young things in Collinsport in his own sad gothic romance, and Grayson Hall would be playing his downfall. The plan was for them to have their fun, kill each other, and then the writers will move on to the next big drama. But something happened during filming. Grayson Hall, an experienced actress just trying to make her big impression, gave her character a little bit of extra internal business. Subtextually, Grayson Hall starts pretending that Julia Hoffman is in the process of falling in love with Barnabas. And everything changed. First off, these two had amazing chemistry. And with that chemistry, the cast dynamics, everything. When these episodes started airing, people loved Barnabas and Julia. They were the new stars of the show, up there headlining with Victoria Winters. Now, the writers had to pull the brakes, though, on their mutually assured destruction plans and figure something out. So they went back in time to buy themselves some time, and they redid their plans for the show going forward. What would be the new focus? Well, the backstories get fleshed out and explored, and eventually we come back to a present where Julia and Barnabas are actually friends now. They've gone through enough, they've buried the axe, and they are now friends, ready to go through hell and back together. And this is their show. Grayson Hall forged the character of Julia. It's her eyes and cheekbones that were written into canon. It's her cat-like composure and raspy voice that cast the spell of Dr. Julia Hoffman. Please, 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 go read Grayson Hall, A Hard Act to Follow by R.J. Jameson. It is a great book, and it's a really great biography of a fascinating woman. Like, I've barely skipped a rock across the surface of what a life this woman lived. I'll include a link. Then in 1991, the year I was born, Barbara Steele accepted the role in the revival. Barbara Steele is hardly a horror unknown, right? Barbara Steele has some gravitas to her. She had that Steele edge, baby. Sorry, not sorry. But I mean, look at her. I do not want to debate anything with this woman. She would rip me apart from the inside out with a single sentence. She doesn't have near the screen time, but that doesn't matter. Every single frame that this woman is in, she owns it. She is the looming threat of knowledge, and I love her. She brings that like wonderful, moody, gothic atmosphere of the old horror films that she's really known for. And also, Britain's first lady of horror, as of filming, is 86 years old and still out there killing it. She voices Miranda in the Netflix Castlevania series. Check it out. Helena Bonham Carter is probably at large the most well-known of these three these days, and it's for a good reason. She's awesome at what she does. She has been serving since 1983, and her IMDb just keeps getting longer. Every performance this woman gives, she is jumping in with both feet and going for it. There is nothing I admire more in an artist than taking big swings. And you know what? Give this woman a softball bat, because she is swinging for the fences every time, and most of the time, it's out of the park. She makes really creative and interesting decisions, not just in her performances, but even in what projects she takes. And she brings every bit of that to Dr. Julia Hoffman. Like, the Barnabas-centric script doesn't give her a lot to work with, but that doesn't matter. Her Julia is smart and funny and has these developed and complex relationships with everyone in Collinwood without any text for it. I'm like, come on. Those big doll eyes picking everyone apart at the seams, I'm here for it. I get it. I doubt there will ever be a sequel to the 2012 film. Maybe, I don't know, in another 29 years or something. But if there is, I've got a treatment for it. Freshly a vampire and sick to death of Barnabas and Josette's bullshit, Dr. Julia Hoffman hits the road with gal pal Elizabeth Collins Stoddard at her side. They're gonna go meet an old professor of Julia's who might be able to help her make the most of her new abilities. Also, Quentin shows up, and along the way, things take a Thelma and Louise turn when some associates of Elizabeth's dead husband pop up and things get wild. Warner Brothers, that's all you're getting for free. Call me. Also, specifically, it has to be HBC and Michelle Pfeiffer in the roles. I'm writing it for them. And Barbara Steele will be Julia's former professor, and at the end, there will be a dedication to Grayson Hall. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. I know you have options when choosing content, and thank you for choosing mine. I am a new content creator, so every like and comment means the world to me. So if you like the video, please hit that button. And if you hit the subscribe button, maybe in a couple of months, I'll have something new for you. Now go get a seasonal beverage of your choice and take care of yourself out there. Okay?